Hello there. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Book Veteran. Why? Because I like comic books and I'm a veteran. I hope you've possibly by now had an opportunity to watch a few of my other episodes. Hopefully, we're going to start getting a bit more settled with what we're doing and how we do it. This is a learning process for me, so please bear with me while I go through this. I've only recently learned to do any editing of videos, and I'm trying to do a lot of these as just one shot straight through. I'll work on learning the other aspects of it a little bit later on. Anyway, so I wanted to go back and talk about a bit of a bit more about the Pedigree comics. I just find them very fascinating. And as a collector of more than 40 years before I ever realized that pedigrees were a thing, I've really found them fascinating the last few years. And unfortunately for me, the prices on many of them have just absolutely skyrocketed, which makes it even more challenging to get a hold of any of them. So as you look through my pedigree books, as I go through some of them, they're not key books. They're not super important. But as I've said before, I find it to be an important part of history, of our pop culture history. And that is something that's important to me to be preserved. So having said that, as I make this recording, the most recently announced pedigree collection from CGC has been the Promise Collection. It was announced in, I think, 2021, so it's been a couple of years now. And the story, as I understand it, and there's little variants, and there have been people trying to figure out exactly who these people were. It's all conjecture at this point, and only a few people know the answer, and that information has not been disclosed as far as I know of. But moving ahead, the story is that there was a young boy who got into collecting comic books in the 1940s, and those books were really well preserved, really well taken care of. And he collected for a number of years, up through about 1950 or 51, as I recall. And at which point he was either drafted or chose to go to the Army. I believe the story is that he was drafted. Nevertheless, the young boy went off to war, 17, 18 years old is the best guess. And the name that has been given for him is Junie, which could stand for any number of things. Could be Junior. Some of the books actually have the name Armando written on the cover, but it's anybody's guess at this point. Maybe the story will come out at some point, and maybe I'll be able to make another episode about that. At any rate, as he was going off to war, he told his brother, his older brother, who goes by the name of Robert, watch out for my funny books. Things go ahead, and Robert comes up missing. Again, this is a story that's close to me because of my military career. Robert comes up missing, at which point, Junie comes up missing, at which point Robert enlists in the Army, goes and specifically wants to go to the same unit where his brother was, or the same geographical location in Korea, and does his best to try to find his younger brother, Junie. He's unsuccessful. He comes home from the Korean War, and at that point, he takes all of his brother's funny books and very carefully stores them away in an attic. Depending on which story you believe, Robert spent much of the rest of his life attempting to find where his brother went, what happened to his brother. Did his brother die? Is he a prisoner? There are some reports that claimed that Junie was seen as late as 1957 still alive. I don't know the answer. Nobody else seems to know the answer. However, the book stayed in storage until 2020, 2021 time frame. And at which point the family says we're going to part with them, whether that was Robert or one of Robert's children, another family member of whichever sort, runs them all through CGC and Heritage Auctions. Some of these books that have shown up have been absolutely remarkable. Books from the 1940s, many of them being graded at a 9.6. That's just, to me, a remarkable feat. A book that is 70 years old coming up with a 9.6. There are 9.8s in that set, as I recall. Lots of superhero books. I remember one of the books was the Detective 140, which is the first appearance of the Riddler. And that book, I believe, sold for $456,000. There were multiple books that sold in that price range. So there's some significant books. There are also other books that didn't grade as high or were less desirable. And that's where I come in. I happened to come across a book and I was able to secure it at a good price. And so at that point, with that being said, I'm going to show you my Black Diamond Western. This is issue number 11. It's from May of 1949. And it's graded at a 9.0 with white pages. So page quality was absolutely immaculate. My understanding is that these books are really, really nice on the inside. Unfortunately, I will not be able to see it because it's already been graded, and I'm glad it is. I'm not planning on cracking these out. But Black Diamond Western was a title I was completely unfamiliar with before I came across this book. But I knew with the story behind it and my military history and such that owning at least a little piece of it would just mean a lot to me personally. So I've got this book. One day it will pass to my own kids or grandkids at some point, and I still look at this as Junie's book. I'm just the caretaker of it for now. One of the other little things that I would like to point out, and I know I showed a couple of the other books, other pedigree books in other episodes, is you'll notice that this book has the gold label. Gold label is for pedigree books. They've gone through several different variations of the pedigree label, and this is the current, as I record it, current version. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see. This does say the Promise Collection because his brother made a promise to keep an eye on his funny books. So there you have it, and that is my Black Diamond Western number 11 from the Promise Collection. Again, I appreciate your time watching this. My name is Patrick, and I am the comic book veteran.